We're waiting for one more board member to have 7 members here this evening, and he's just about 2 blocks away, so we'll start the meeting as soon as he gets there.
Good evening and welcome to the Brookings County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This meeting is being recorded, televised, and viewable on Swiftel Channel 19, ITC Channel 168, or the Brookings County YouTube channel. Now call this meeting to order. Approval of minutes. Is there a motion? Motion by Diedrich.
Second.
Second by Gatsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Items to be added to the agenda by commission members or staff.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Invitation for citizens to schedule a time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Seeing none. Disclosure of conflicts of interest, relationships to applicant or ex parte communication. Everybody's good? Approval of agenda. Is there a motion?
So
Move approval.
Motion by Bartley.
Second.
Second by Kleinjohn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Before we convene as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment, there is only 7 board members present tonight. So if you would like to push something back till we have a full board next month, that is your option. The Board of Adjustment is a simple majority vote, right?
For conditional uses.
For conditional
For
uses,
conditional uses, we would need 4 votes to approve it. For variances, we would need 6 votes of the 7 members present to approve it. So if 5 members vote for it and 2 no, your variance would be denied this evening. So if you, well, then you would have to wait 6 months before you could reapply, or you can ask to table it until the next meeting for a full board.
yes.
When we get up to that, when we get to the agenda item, if you would like to table it, you would tell us at that time. Otherwise, we will proceed. If you'd like to proceed, we can. Yes. We've got some members that have township official meeting obligations that they're gone to, and a couple are sick, so that's why we are a short board this evening, so. Yes, it would be 4 votes, so. So you can read your opening statement there, and we can continue.
The Board of Adjustment is a 9-member board which has the power to hear requests for variances, conditional use, and appeals from the non-ministerial decisions of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of 2/3 of the full board membership of the board, 6 votes is necessary for approval of a variance or an appeal of the zoning officer. The concurring vote of a simple majority of those board members present and voting is necessary for approval of a conditional use permit. In accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, we require a motion to approve a request before the request can be debated as a matter of policy. All motions are to be made in the positive. The board, under specific powers granted to it by the state, shall authorize variances from the zoning requirements where special conditions exist on the land. It will result in an unnecessary hardship for the applicant. Financial disadvantage to the property owner shall not constitute proof of an unnecessary hardship. Did I do the right one, or did I skip one there? No. Yep. Okay.
Would you like to proceed, Ted? Okay. We'll No, I think,
I'll proceed.
yep, we'll get your comments here in just a second. He's got to read the
Okay.
agenda item here, and I have to do my staff report, so.
Agenda item 2022 CU 005. Ted Weinrich has made an application 2022 CU 005 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a conditional use, Article 11, Section 11.01A Agricultural District, conditional use number 16, one manufactured or mobile home as a secondary residence on an established farmstead to be used for the occupancy of a farm employee or by the parents, grandparents, children, brothers, and sisters of the occupant of the land, provided that said mobile home is removed within 90 days of the vacation therefrom by the qualified occupant or occupants. The property is described as the west half of the southwest 1/4 of the west half of the east half of the southwest 1/4 of Section 35, Township 109 North, Range 50W, Madera Township, located at 470 036 220th Street, Brookings, South Dakota 57006. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Gatsky. Richard, would you read staff report?
Yes, 2022 CU 005, Ted Reinrich has applied for a conditional use to move in a mobile manufactured home as a secondary residence for his daughter and her family to live in. They will assist the applicant with future care needs. The applicant has a residence, a garage, shop with an existing septic system on the property. And the proposed manufactured home will use the existing septic system that is being used for the detached garage and shop. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on February 15th and 22nd, 2022, and letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, Madera Township Chairman and Clerk, and the Brookings County Highway Department. Here's the applicant's conditional use application. Beacon map showing the property here. This is 220th Street, just a half mile west of Old 77 or 471st Avenue. Driveway going back, tucked way back in the trees right here, kind of on the ridge. This is looking to the west from his driveway on 220th Street. This is looking to the east right there. This is looking down the driveway. The very southern end, this is up towards the northwest part. Just around the curve, you get up to see the buildings and the building site. This is where the proposed home would go. Manufactured home would go to the south side of his existing shop, shed, garage there. Just a little close-up version of it here, and this is the existing septic tank that's behind the garage here, located just where that stake is, fence post is located. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Richard's report?
I'll just give you a background as to why I'm requesting this is,
Ted, could I just have you slide the mic back
Oh.
towards you a little more?
slide me or the mic. one
You
of
or
two.
the
Either
mic,
or.
yes.
Either
Either
or.
or.
both.
How's that?
A little bit more.
How's that now?
There you go.
Okay. Been on this property for, I don't know, close to 15 years ago. My wife and I purchased this. Been very blessed with it. I've worked at Larson Manufacturing for the past 25 years, just very recently retired, and going to enjoy my retirement. And unfortunately, the very day that my retirement notice went out at work, Mayo Clinic diagnosed me with pancreatic cancer. And far enough along that they, in essence, through some discussion, they basically said they don't have a good option for me. I went to Avera also, cancer hospital. One of the doctors there said probably 30% of the employees that work in the cancer hospital wouldn't take treatment because it's basically highly invasive and give me about a 3% chance of living past 2 years. So, not exactly how I wanted to go into retirement. So what I'm looking for is, my wife has health issues also, which will end up needing to have further care down the road. We don't know when. That septic system I have put in was specifically, thinking out into the future. All I have is a bathroom out there in my workshop, but the septic system was put in big enough to eventually add something in case, whether my wife or I or kids move into it. So that's specifically sized appropriately for that. So what I am seeking is my youngest daughter and husband to be able to move a manufactured home out there and take care of my wife, and depending upon the timing, take care of me also as in the decline. I am fighting this. I'm fighting it like crazy, but I'm on some natural stuff, chemo doesn't work, surgery doesn't work. So I'm fighting hard to live, but I need to plan for not being here, and this is part of my plan. And I would gladly answer any other questions around that.
Thank you. Anybody got any other questions this time, or wait till the public portion of the hearing?
Like I say, I would gladly get into more details. My wife is very private. I know this is public forum, but I need this. I need this. Because she's not capable.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna move on to the public portion of the hearing for you. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing. Move back to the board for any additional comments or questions. Pretty simple. It's exactly what the ordinance is worded for, so. With no questions from the members of the board, Richard, would you read the findings of facts?
Yes, Brookings County zoning conditional use 22 CU 005, an application for a conditional use having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a Board of Adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by 10 Weinrich regarding the following real property: the west half of the southwest 1/4 and the west half of the east 1/2 of the southwest 1/4, section 35, township 109 north, range 50 west, Missouri Township, located at 47036 220th Avenue, or 220th Street, Brookings, South Dakota. After due notice, a public hearing having been held on the application on this first day of March 2022, number one, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that it is empowered to grant such conditional use under the following sections of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. Article 11, Section 11.01A, Agricultural District, conditional use permit number 16. And further finding that granting of the conditional use will not adversely affect the public interest. Number two, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds and certifies that the following specific rules governing the conditional use request have been complied with. A manufactured mobile home must have been constructed after June 15th, 1976. Number three, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finds that satisfactory provisions and arrangements have been made concerning the following were applicable. None. A, entrance and exits to the property, structures therein, with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety, convenience, traffic flow, control, access in case of fire and catastrophe. We'll use the existing driveway off 220th Street, which is also Brookings County Blacktop Road, number 20. B, off-street parking loading areas, where required, with particular attention to items in A above and economic, noise, glare, or other effects of the conditional use on adjoining properties and properties generally in the same district. None stated. C, utilities, refuge, and service areas with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. Do you use a dumpster service now, Ted?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's fine. Do you burn your garbage or whatnot?
I burn and then
Okay. We'll just
take
add
to the
that.
dump.
D, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, or character. None stated. Signs, if any, proposed exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, economic effect, and compatibility and harmony with properties in the district. None stated. F, required yards and other open spaces. None stated. G, general compatibility with adjacent properties and other properties in the district. Comprehensive plan meant for the agricultural district. H, roads providing access to the property are adequate to meet the transportation demands of the proposed conditional use. The Board of Adjustment may require the applicant to enter in a written contract with any affected township or other governmental unit regarding the upgrading or continued maintenance of any roads used for conditional use requested prior to the issuance of a conditional use. None stated. I, any required notifications to law enforcement or fire department. None stated. J, any safety inspections requirements required. Inspections as required for the building permit. Number 4, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this conditional use upon the following additional special conditions or safeguards. Manufactured home must be removed within 90 days after the vacation of the qualified occupant or occupants. Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3, a majority vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner a conditional use for the above described real property as follows. Conditional use number 16, one manufactured mobile home as a secondary residence on an established farmstead to be used for the occupancy of the farm employee or by the parents, grandparents, children, or brothers or sisters of the occupant of the land, providing that the said home is removed 90 days after the vacation thereof by the qualified occupant or occupants. This conditional use is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the requirements and conditions in 3 and 4 above, and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the zoning director is authorized to issue and require building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this conditional use. If this conditional use is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Date of this first day of March, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with findings of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Diedrich. Richard, would you call the vote?
Bartley,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Gatsky,
Aye.
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Starhog,
Aye.
and Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My wife said to make sure the very first thing I do is thank you guys for the work you do. I said, of course I'll do that first, babe. But I guess I'll do it at the end. Thank you for all the work you guys do. Appreciate it very, very much. Is there anything else you need from me?
Thanks,
Good.
Ted.
Thank you so much.
Moving on, agenda item 2022, variance 004. Stephen Tyler has made an application 2022, variance 004 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance Article 4, District Requirements, Chapter 4.03, LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03, Density, Area, and Yard Regulation Minimum Lakefront. The property is described as Lot 7 and Lot G of Wasik Beach in Government Lot 4 in Northwest 1/4 of Section 3, Township 112, North Range 52W, Laketon Township, located at 302 Southeast Lake Drive, S-Line, South Dakota 57234. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Gatsky. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Did you want to proceed?
Oh, did you want to proceed? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you can come up.
whenever.
The 2022 variance 004, Stephen Tyler has applied for a lakeside variance to build a new home 41 feet 3 inches from the highest known watermark on Lake Ponset. Variance of 33 feet 9 inches. The required setback is 75 feet from the highest known watermark. The applicant will need to complete a floodplain development permit to meet the Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA floodplain standards for building in the floodplain, as a portion of the lot is in the floodplain. The applicant will meet the 25-foot front yard setback and the 8-foot side yard setback. Things to consider are the shape and the size of the lot. Waikiki Beach subdivision was platted on December 6, 1967. Prior to the current zoning ordinances, and the Brookings County Comprehensive Plan states that future use will continue to develop on Lakes Campbell, Hendricks, Lake Titankaha, Lake Ponset will experience continued development in various degrees. Letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, Laketon Township Chairman and Clerk, and the public notices were published in the Brookings Register on February 15th and 22nd, 2022, and in the Volga Tribune on February 17th and 24th, 2022. Here's the variance application. This site plan. Showing his lot. Here's the proposed building with the garage. 25 feet from the edge of the road to the front of the garage. 8-foot side setback to the edge of the deck to the highest known watermark is 41 feet 3 inches. This is foundation plan. I have the garage right here. There'll be just a little basement or storage area under the southern part of the home. The rest will be crawl space or slab on grade, depending on his construction method there. But to have a little storm shelter for some additional storage under the southern portion of the residence adjacent to the garage there. Proposed elevations of the garage, this would be the lake side. This would be the roadside looking at there. This would be the east elevation. And this is the beacon map showing the red area noting the floodplain. Even though it's just a little tip in there, we got to jump through the hoops for the FEMA floodplain ordinance to meet all those requirements. So this is just looking at the west side of the lot, looking towards the lake. This is the east side of the lot, looking towards the lake. The wheel is at 8 feet from the side setback from that post. This is looking west down the road, showing the 25 feet from the road. This existing garage will be moved off or relocated. And so this garage will be gone and the house we built over that location. So, and this is the 25 feet from the road looking towards the east. It will be in line with the other houses up and down the line there. This is looking from the west, from the retaining wall, highest known watermark. Along there you can see it will be back behind these other structures. This is looking towards the east there. This is the highest known watermark where that retaining wall is, right here, right by the flagpole. Showing the elevation drop from the shoreline looking uphill there towards the proposed area where the house will be. This is 41 feet 3 inches from the high water mark looking towards the east. You can see the edge of the deck would be about right in the center of that house there where it would line up. And this is looking towards the west. The 41 feet 3 inches would be way back here, about the beginning of the house, 2/3 of the way back. So, and the applicant is here this evening, and we did receive one comment from the neighbor that I will read during that time.
Thank you, Richard. Do you have anything to add, quick, or pretty cut and dry?
Well, we have a letter from the neighbor to the west of us that I brought along.
We have one to the east. If you want to bring that up, I can read that if you'd like.
That'd be great.
I'll read that during your
Okay.
comment section.
Any questions from board at this time? Seeing none, I'll open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a statement from Tim and Carol Bird. We are the owners of 304 Southeast Lake Drive and are next to Steve and Linda Tyler. We are of the understanding that they are submitting for a variance to build closer to the lake. We have no problem with them building closer to the lake as they will enjoy the views and sunsets that we have enjoyed over the last couple of years. If you have any questions, please feel to contact either of us at the numbers below. Sincerely, Tim and Carol Bird. Pardon me, I have one more. This will be the adjoining landowner to the east. February 23rd, 2022, Paul Juleson called the zoning office at 10:15 a.m. regarding Stephen Tyler's variance, 2022 variance 004, and has no objections to the variance request. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience for this? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I will now close the public portion of the hearing. Is there any additional comments or questions from members of the board? Seeing and hearing none, Richard, would you read the findings of facts?
Right, this is the variance. I'll read this one through the entirety. Then if we do others this evening, I'll just read the highlighted areas when we get to that portion. So, Brookings County zoning ordinance, variance 2022, variance 004, an application for variance having been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as a Brookings County Board of Adjustment, a copy of the application being attached here too. Such application being made by Stephen Tyler regarding the following real property. Lot 7 and Lot G of Waikik Beach in Government Lot 4 in the northeast 1/4 of Section 3, Township 112 North, Range 52 West, Laketon Township. located at 302 Southeast Lake Drive, Last Line, South Dakota. After due notice, a public hearing have been held on the application on the first day of March 2022. Number one, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment hereby finding that the strict application of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would produce undue hardship, that such hardship is not shared generally with other properties in the same district or of the same vicinity, that the authorization of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance, and that the granting of such variance is based upon reasons of demonstrable and exceptional hardship that is distinguished from the variations for the purpose of convenience, profit, and caprice. Number two, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the condition or situation of the property concerned or the intended use of the property is not so general or recurring in nature as to make reasonable, practicable the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Number three, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the written application of the petitioner demonstrates that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or buildings in the same district, that literal interpretation of the provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance would deprive the applicant of the rights of commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance, that the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, and that the granting of the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Number four, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the reasons set forth in the application justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the Brookings County zoning ordinance, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Number five, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. A, the shape and size of the lot. Waikiki Beach subdivision was platted on December 6, 1967, prior to the current zoning ordinance requirements. C, a portion of the property is located in the floodplain and will need to be built to the Brookings County floodplain ordinance standards. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment, by at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner variance for the above described rules property as follows. Build a new residence with an attached garage with the northeast corner 41 feet 3 inches from the highest known watermark on Lake Pouncet, and the elevation of the lowest floor to be 3 feet above the highest known watermark. B, a Brookings County floodplain development permit required, and follow the Brookings County floodplain ordinance for building in the floodplain. This variance is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the conditions and safeguards in 5 above, and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director is also authorized to issue required building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this variance. If this variance is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated this first day of March 2022.
Any additions to the findings of facts?
Mr. Chairman, I would concur with the findings of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Bartley. Richard, would you call a vote?
Erickson,
Aye.
Gatsky,
Aye.
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Storhog,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
and Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Richard, I have a question on the next two. Since it's an after the fact variance and they do get denied, what are the ramifications for them if they get denied? Are they required to remove it? Or how would that move forward? Where
Yes.
you said that, yes, they can repetition in 6 months, but if their petition gets denied, it's a little different.
It would be different, yes. It would be the stipulations that are in the denied findings of facts. They could, and what you decide, they could be required to remove the structure.
So that is one thing to keep in mind if you do feel that you want to move forward, which is fine. That's your choice, but that could be one of the stipulations.
Well, Yep, one
Right.
votes no.
One, 6 of the 7 members would have to vote yes for that. 6 of the 7 members present would have to vote yes to concur with your variance request. If 5 vote yes and 2 vote no, it is denied, and you would have to follow the denied findings of facts that the board comes up with. Yes, he will ask you that when he comes up to that, and you can let us know at that time if you'd like to. It would be
We should
9.
have a full board.
Should have a full board.
There'd be 9, and you still need 6. No matter what, you need 6 votes. If there's 6 people here, you need 6. If there's 9 people here, you need 6. So, basically, I'll have to introduce it. You come forward, and then at that time, you can request to table it or have it done. tonight.
Postpone until the next
Postpone
meeting.
to the next meeting. Agenda item 2022, variance 005. Bradley Vosted has made an application 2022, variance 005 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance, Article 4 District Requirements, Chapter 4.03, LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03, Density Area and Yard Regulation, Minimum Lakefront and Minimum Side Yard. The property is described as Lot 26 of DeBoer's Lake Tatankaha West Subdivision and Government Lots 4 and 5 in the southeast 1/4 of Section 7, Township 111, North Range 51W, Oakwood Township, located at 43 Oakwood Shoreline Drive, Bruce, South Dakota 57220. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Diedrich,
Second.
second by Bartley. Did we read staff report before we go?
No, we'll just ask him now what his intentions
Do
are.
you want to hear it, or would you like to wait till
Yeah,
next
have him
month?
come up to the mic so we can get him.
Step
on
up
the-
the mic here, please.
I'll postpone.
You'd like to postpone it till next month?
Okay.
Okay, do you got a paper he's got to sign for that, or? we
No.
just-
Nope.
All right,
So a question. Can I improve on my application between now and then? Because,
Yes, I wanted to visit with you on that after the meeting here this evening.
thank you.
Because actually, there's 3 actual separate variances that you're requiring. So you have the deck that is by the lakeside, you have your deck that you want to build on your second story, and you have the side setback for your stairs. Yeah, we need some distances there. So I'll visit with you after the meeting that if you have time, or I can call you tomorrow. So, okay, thank you.
moving on to agenda item 2022, variance 006. Larry Whitmire has made an application 2022, variance 006 to the Brookings County Board of Adjustment for a variance. Article 4, District Requirements, Chapter 4.03, LP Lake Park District, Section 4.03.03, Density, Area and Yard Regulation, Minimum Lakefront and Minimum Side Yard. The property is described as Lot 25 of DeBoer's Lake Tatankaha West Subdivision in Government Lots 1, 4, 5, and 6 in the southeast 1/4 of Section 7, Township 111, North Range 51W, Oakwood Township, located at 42 Shoreline Drive, Bruce, South Dakota 57220. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, before you get a motion, this is Luke Muller here. Just a quick point of order. You didn't have a motion to postpone that last one. You just had them ask. You probably better have a motion to postpone it. And just for what it's worth, postponing it puts it automatically on the agenda. Tabling it, frankly, does nothing.
Is there
so
a
I would
motion to
say
postpone?
postpone.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Diedrich, second by Gatsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Postpone. And that was for agenda item 2022, variance 005.
Yes, sir.
Now back to agenda item 2022, variance 006. Is there a motion to hear this?
I move to approve, to hear it.
Motion by Gatsky,
Second.
second by Diedrich. Richard, would you read the staff, wait. Would you like to postpone it also, or you? Yep. Richard, would you read the staff report?
Yes, 2022 variant 006. Larry Whitmire has applied for an after-the-fact variance for a deck and accessory building that was built within the lakeside setbacks. The variance distance is for a 0-foot setback as the deck extends beyond the retaining wall into the shoreline. The required setback is 75 feet from the highest known watermark. The lakeside portion of the deck is built on the retaining wall and extends out into the shoreline. The home was built in 1993 with variances granted on June 7, 1991 for the side yard setbacks. The original deck and accessory building on the lakeside were removed when the retaining wall was installed. The zoning office has no record of a variance being granted for the deck or the accessory building that was built in the past. The applicant was approved for a shoreline modification permit to install a retaining wall along his property by the South Dakota Department of Game Fish and Parks, and the applicant did get a building permit from the zoning office for his shoreline modification. The wooden deck and the accessory building were not listed as part of the shoreline modification project. Things to consider are the shape and the size of the lot. Lake cabins and lots and cabins have been existed on Lake Titankaha, otherwise known as Lake Oakwood, since the 30s and 40s, prior to the zoning requirements. DeBoer's Lake Titankaha was subdivision, was originally platted in 1984 and was replatted in 2003 when the original road was vacated and relocated. The Brookings County Comprehensive Plan use development lakes for future land use found on page 58 states that it is likely that established developed areas of Lake Campbell, Lake Hendricks, Lake Titankaha, and Lake Ponset will experience continued development in varying degrees, while non-lakefront growth potential exists for all available lakes, and significant lakefront areas were appropriately zoned and some divided in some cases adjacent to the lakes, Titankaha, Lake Hendricks, and Lake Campbell. Public notices were published in the Brookings Register on February 15th and 22nd, 2022, and the Volga Tribune on February 17th and 24th, 2022. And letters were sent to the adjoining landowners, the Lake Oakwood Township Chairman and Clerk. Here's the variance application. This is their site plan. I mean, the house and the setbacks and proposed deck that was built down here. There's an 8x7 shed. Practically, I think it's hard to tell on the. I'll have to ask you for the distances on there, but I believe it's about 15 feet is the width of the deck. 12.5 feet in width from the retaining wall out beyond the to the retaining wall. And I'm not sure if the length is stated on here. But that was their site plan. This is the beacon map. Here, the red area showing the floodplain. You can kind of see somewhat the existing deck that wasn't there when this photo was taken back in 2019. Part of the existing deck, you can see through the shadows there of the trees. Just looking from the south, looking south from the north end, this is the deck that was built coming out in the little 6x7 shed that was, storage building that was built here. This is just looking from the south, looking towards the north. There, extending over the retaining wall deck there in the little storage building, accessory building. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Richard. Do you have anything to add to Richard's staff report?
Yes.
My fault. Could you please clearly state your name first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jelaine Whitmire. This is Larry Whitmire.
I need him to introduce himself, please.
I'm Larry Whitmire.
Thank you.
Yep. Maybe slide the mics a little closer to you.
Okay.
Or slide them down.
All right.
Pick it up.
We have been on this lot, this property, for over 50 years. We
1968, we were there.
yeah, rented from the DeBoers, and then we was able to purchase the lot when they put them all up for sale. The 30 by 16 deck, main deck that we built was built in 1990, and then we had an 8 by 10 shed built down by the lake in 1991, and then of course in 1993 we applied for the building permit to build a new home, and we came to the zoning and required a 6-foot side lot instead of an 8-foot, and they approved that, and so we got a building permit 1411 dated 9/8/1993, and then we proceeded to move our old summer cabin from 1960 off and begin construction of a new home. In the fall of 2020, 5 of us lot owners agreed to hire Hurley Construction to construct a shoreline restoration wall consisting of approximately 350 continuous footage of lakeshore restoration. So July of 2020, we began removing the 8 by 10 shed that was built in 1991 and the 30 by 16 deck that was built in 1990. So Hurley Construction could begin construction of the restoration monster blocks. We mistakenly made the assumption that we could replace what we tore down in order for construction of the shoreline restoration monster block. So we built a new deck, 30 by 16, which was the same size previous decking was, and the location was the same, and then built a smaller shed, 7 by 8, 58 square feet, than the previous shed. Due to the constraints of the square footage of our lot, we have 115 feet on each side. Roadside is 50 feet, and the lakeside is 54.1 feet, which is 5,980 square feet. We consider it to be a hardship to comply with the county density area and yard regulations. Therefore, we respectfully requesting a variance after the fact of the 7 by 8 shed, which is located 3 feet from the adjoining property's survey line instead of the 8-foot side yard requirement. I've received a letter, or we have received a letter from the adjoining property owners, lot number 41, which is the Snyders from Sioux City, with no objection to our, they call it our fish shed location. Also for the same 7 by 8 shed, the lakeside, which regulations require minimum lake frontage of 75 feet, we respectfully request a variance of 9 feet from the lakeside of the shed to the edge of our deck lakeside. After we had the 4-foot high shoreline restoration monster blocks installed, approximately 2 feet of those monster blocks had to be covered by rock, which needed to be in place of those monster blocks for the, to stop the wave action and ice action against the restoration wall. The pictures that the zoning office showed, you'll see that our deck extends over the monster blocks, and it's approximately 30 inches. And so we would like to request a variance after the fact of approximately 30 inches of deck that extends over the restoration monster block. Would you like the letter from Snyders?
Yes, you can bring that forward. Thank you.
And if you put up the picture of the house and the deck, you request a 75-foot from the lake to the house, which you don't see the house on here, but actually it's 18 foot up to the front of that wall, and then it's 16 foot. So you're looking 34 foot from the lake to the house due to the lot size and everything. You got to make use of whatever you have there. And granted, the deck does stick out over the wall, which before I had it cantilevered over the braces that I had anchored in the rock.
Well, and the the extension over the block wall, you can see it's over rock and not over the lake.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions from members of the board at this time?
Well, one other thing, in your deal with Mr. Oz, which is down the lake to the south about, I don't know, quarter mile or so, they say that the wall is a high water mark. And it is a high water mark in, I think it's 2010 when we had the high water there. It didn't quite get to the top of that wall. It was like 3 inches below it at that time, if that's pertinent.
That was of your old retaining wall?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you say, about
The-
6 inches from the top?
I'm sorry?
How far from the top was it?
It was about 3 inches from the top
Okay,
of the old
thank you.
wall. It was underneath the deck. I've got
Well,
pictures at home,
we
I
didn't
think.
have a wall before, it was just
Well,
rocks.
it was the deck was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The wall was over to this side.
Is there any other questions from members of the board?
I got a question. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together.
I'm sorry?
The chain of events is like putting a puzzle together. So the rocks that you have are new, the retaining wall,
Yeah.
the monster blocks are new.
Mm-hmm.
And the deck that you had before the monster blocks that you have now.
Same size, same height and everything.
Okay. So in putting this just process together, did you apply for a building permit for the deck itself?
No,
or-
because we just figured we were replacing it.
Well, that was way back 30 years ago.
when
Yeah.
you put the original deck on.
The original deck was 1990 or 91.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then this is a newer deck.
Yeah,
Yes.
And so the newer decks, my question, I guess, is to the county then, when people install new decks, replacing old decks, they still have to have a building permit or they don't need a building permit?
Yes, when they remove them completely, it takes it out. It's like starting over. You need to apply for a variance, what the current standards are.
But
we had
do
no
you-
idea that,
Yeah.
we were replacing what we had.
What we tore out, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but do you need a building permit for a deck?
Yes, and if any structure larger than 10 by 12, 120 square feet, needs a building permit.
That's a building.
It is considered a structure. Any deck
okay.
that's attached to the house
Okay.
or a freestanding deck that's larger than 10 by 12 requires a building permit.
Okay, because the shed I had before was, and that was built in 91, I believe, before we built the house.
91, yep.
So,
Another question relating to the retaining wall. On the monster block retaining wall, that was part of the engineering with the South Dakota Game Fish on where it was located and stuff?
yes, yes.
Okay. That was,
John John Hurley gets all the permits and everything from whoever he has to, and it's set up with the game and fish and everything.
so the permits for the monster wall and everything were done?
Yeah.
But there
Oh,
was
yeah.
just no permits applied for the deck?
No.
And
And-
the deck is about hanging over from the edge of the rock about 30 inches?
Yeah, 30 inches. hmm And actually, I don't know, we don't have the picture, but I think if you take do you have other pictures up there?
I have
From
other
the south?
pictures available, yes.
Here, this is one you're looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Just leave it there. I got a camera I can zoom in on. Or which
Okay.
picture is that?
Set it.
There's
This
a
is the
camera,
one from the
there's
south.
there's a camera right above your head.
I've got a.
Oh.
So just lay it on the
flat
table.
on the
Oh,
table
okay.
there, above the keyboard, kind of where that laser
Above the
pointer
keyboard,
is.
sure.
No,
Right.
where that laser pointer is right there.
Towards us, right in the middle, towards us, right?
Okay.
There you
Well,
go. Yeah, so
Pull it
it's,
down
so
a bit.
Okay,
Towards
now,
the bit.
you can, you can see where the deck sticks out.
That's right.
Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4.5 boards, and they're 6-inch boards, so approximately 30 inches. But you see, it's actually sticking over the rock. And there's a humongous rock right on the corner of it.
and it's sitting on top of the monster block. Is
Yeah,
that right?
it's just setting on top of it, yeah.
Mr. Whitmire, just a clarification, there's actually 3 different tiers of monster block there then, is that correct?
Well, there's the one which you can see right there is on the lakeside, and then there's another one up behind the shed. If you go back to the other picture, or well, here, let me move it just a little bit. There you can see over here, you can see the back wall.
It appears the other picture we have shows a 3rd level of monster block above that one yet, is that correct?
That's on the neighbor's
All right.
lot. Yeah, that's on Schneider's lot. Mhm.
If you were to cut back your deck to 30 inches, what would your deck size be for the depth?
Probably about 13 and a half foot.
And question for the county, is there a requirement for a railing on the deck when it's sitting over the water like this?
Excuse me, if it's above the ground by 20 inches, 24 inches, I believe, but as far as the lakeside goes, I'm not for certain on that. It would still, if that distance between the top of the deck down to the rock would exceed that 24 inches, there should be a railing on there for safety purposes.
Do you think that the distance from the bottom of the deck to the rock below is greater than 24 inches?
In some places, it might be, yes. But most of the places, to stop the wave and ice action, they pile up the rock in front to protect the wall, basically.
It was about 2 foot.
Yeah.
They piled rock in front, so there's
Yeah.
2 foot of the top of the monster blocks exposed.
Yeah, I was just thinking about children and how they like to play on decks and run fast without thinking where they're walking and how they fall. That's why I was looking for the railing. So right now, the variance, if they were to have to take the deck out, do they get much of a choice of a deck at all?
That's what you're here to tonight to decide for. If this is trying to go around the zoning ordinance of the 75-foot requirement area on that.
Well,
I'll
now
just,
you say
history,
75
there's not
foot.
been many that have been approved down there on the lakeside with a 0-foot setback.
So that was, the history was approved or was not?
Was not approval of decks with a 0-foot setback down on the lake shore.
Right, and I know we've turned it down in the past, and so that's just what I'm struggling with.
Where is the actual high water mark?
The high water mark is about 3 inches below the top of that seawall.
Okay, so that monster block that's underneath the deck is the high water mark then?
Yeah, approximately.
Below,
So this is hanging 30 inches over the top of the high water mark then is what that amounts to?
I'm sorry?
This is hanging 30 inches beyond the high water mark.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, you
and
can
it's
say
above
that.
the high water
It's
mark.
above the high water mark. Yeah. I used to survey, and when the state put in new culverts over on the entrance, I shot off I've got a survey instrument. I shot off the pin, the elevation pin over there, which they were putting in those culverts. And the lake was smooth. My grandson and I, we shot the lake. We walked over to our side of the lake. It was smooth. We shot it again. And I put the elevation on there. It's 1630.5 to be exact. The top of the elevation, or the top of the monster block at that point.
Mr. Whitmire, what advantages does that extra 30 inches there give you? That why did you decide to do that?
Well, when you're fishing, and I fish off the dock, you see that little thing on the corner there? I stick my rod in there. When you're fishing, it's nice to be able to pull your fish up and lift it out of the water rather than banging it over the rock. Hey, I catch perch, I catch walleye. This year I haven't. It's,
Well, and
And
we,
it-
and our lot is only, 5,000 some square feet compared to the, what is it, 20,000?
20,000. That's required.
That's on your zoning?
And like I said, from the edge of our house, and it's from the water's height to the house is 8 foot elevation wise. But you only have, like I said, there's 18 foot from the house to that wall, and then there's 16 foot out to the edge of the thing.
That's all we have.
Yeah.
Did you build this yourself, or did you hire a contractor?
I built it myself.
Okay. The challenge that I'm dealing with right now isn't about the lot size. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant that you already granted variances on the side. That's irrelevant. The deck was tore apart, taken off, removed. You rebuilt the retaining wall. The ordinance has been in place in the books saying that you have to get a building permit. Ignorance is the challenge that we have, and it is what it is. I have that all the time. And I'm struggling with finding a compromise here or denying it. And the challenge is you didn't come in and get a building permit. And that's a challenge. The fact it's hanging over 30 inches to me seems like one option could be to cut it back 30 inches, have it edge of the retaining wall, but then you lose your opportunity to fish like you do. But that's really not a hardship. That's just an inconvenience. Yeah. And so I'm struggling with this, and I wasn't sure if any other board members are or not. That's why I'm sitting on the fence.
I believe, Mr. Haugen, you turned that over to the Game and Fish when you talked, and they could care less.
Yes, well, that's not so to speak. It does, in reference to Mr. Kleinjohn's question on the high water mark, the ordinary high water mark is 1626.9 feet, is the ordinary high water mark of
1626.
1626.9.
Top of my wall is 1630. That's 4 foot.
Okay. Usually with floodplain development and those type of things, the highest known water mark needs to be determined by a registered surveyor around there. That's what we always go by with what we require for our floodplain development permits. So, also with Game Fish and Parks, they referenced South Dakota law in reference to the water's edge. South Dakota Codified Law 4317-2 is what would pertain to this, apply to this deck. I can read it for you. Is upland owner taking edge of navigable water, streams or lake at low water mark, exception navigable rivers, lakes, public right-of-way, public highways. Unless the grant under the land is held indicates a different intent, the owner of the upland, if it is borders upon a navigable lake or stream, takes to the edge of the lake or stream at the low water mark. All navigable rivers, boats, or public highways within 50 feet landward from the water's nearest edge, providing that the outer boundary of such public highway may not expand beyond the ordinary high water mark or may not contract within the ordinary high water mark, subject to codified laws. So this would be the statute if Game Fish and Parks was,
You said the high water mark was 1626, correct?
according to the Game Fish and Parks,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Is there any other questions from the board at this time, or should we move to the public hearing?
Just a quick question, Richard. Game Fish and Parks talks about this deck being over the navigable waters. Obviously, the navigable waters would be all the way up to the retaining walls if the rocks weren't there. The rocks were put in as part of the retaining wall structure, weren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they weren't there, they'd be over the water, the deck.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's probably where we have an issue with is it would be over the water. Because we don't want to see that happen everywhere. Over the water, well, rocks or not, his is over the water, mine could be over the water. And that's where we run into difficulties. And I would have to agree with Mr. Gatsky that possibly moving the deck, shortening it to the retaining wall, then takes it out of the navigable waters issue for us, or at least for me it does. Because I don't want to see that happen other places. So that's a consideration if you would consider removing that 30 inches or back to the retaining wall of that deck. And then the second question to you, Mr. Whitmire, is the original deck sat right here, or
Yep.
was it farther back?
Sat there for
Just exactly
30-some
the
years.
Did it
same
go? Did it
location.
go out over the water then?
Pardon?
Did it go out over the water then?
Basically, it was just like it was now, because the rocks were there, and I put pillars
I guess we didn't bring pictures
on
of
the-
previous.
in amongst the rock and just set it up, and I stuck the deck out. Well, actually, it was probably closer to 4 foot back then, but
Was over the rocks back then?
yeah,
Yeah.
just like it is now.
Just-
That, it's basically the same
Yeah,
position it was
Same thing,
then.
but only the retaining wall was not, or the monster block was not there. It was just all rocks underneath our deck.
Yeah.
And that's the deck you were referencing was never permitted in the first place.
Well, did the first deck need a permit?
No,
Yeah, it's just that it got completely removed. When you completely remove it to replace it,
Yeah.
that
Triggers the
and like,
restriction.
no, I'll agree. Ignorance is no problem, but I was just replacing what I had. So,
Richard, is from a standpoint of amendment to the motion, at what point would I offer an amendment to the motion for reducing it back 30 inches?
We can go through that through the findings. I have that listed in there as one of the options, if it's approved.
the little shed, did we have an applicant not that long ago put in for a variance to build something similar and got denied? Am I correct in thinking
I'd
that?
have to go back and look. If they're considered portable structures, we were fairly lenient with them as long as they can be moved, but they still need to meet the setbacks. We would allow them to be closer that way, but if we got a complaint on them, then they would be, you'd have to move them back to within the setback requirements, so.
Yeah,
But this
our
is
shed
not portable, so that would be,
Our shed
and
is
it's-
under 120 square feet, but the problem is we replaced it smaller, but we didn't think about the set-in, you know.
right, yep. It's any structure that's within that 75-foot area from the highest known water mark to your house. It's supposed to be a green area, and nothing's supposed to be in there. It's for the protection and the beauty of the lake and to protect the lake. So that's why we have those requirements in place.
Luke, do you got anything to add to this?
I was waiting for the public hearing to open, but if you'd like to open it, then I'll go.
You want me to open the public portion of the hearing right
Go
now?
for it,
We'll
and
get
I'll-
to that
I'll
part
take
here
care.
today. I'm gonna open the public portion of the hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that is for this?
I can speak either way, if that's all right. You okay with
Go
me
for it.
going? This is going to go kind of in favor and opposed to it in both at the same breath here. I'll point out just in listening, Luke Muller, First District Association Local Government, senior planner there at the office and sitting at these meetings. As far as this goes, there are a couple of points here. It's clear that these individuals didn't mean to break any rules as they went through it. I mean, I think that nobody's arguing that they did mean to. The couple of points that are relevant here, if you're inclined to approve anything in way of a variance, I know that flat work typically has been looked at kindly as far as how to handle things, and the real question is here whether the moderate step up constitutes basically the same thing or not from the standpoint of the zero setback. That's really for you to decide. As far as the, so from that standpoint, if it's considered similar, go ahead. One thing I do have to speak out, it's my job to point out and remind you, and I think that you're well aware of this, that 43 was 17.2, I think was that number that Richard recited. One of the things that you really shouldn't take lightly is the fact that it references that any property from the high water mark back to the water is considered a public highway. That's the same terminology they use for section line right away. as well as H lots and anything like that. So in the eyes of that, you're treating it like you would any H lot highway, something like that. Unfortunately, if it's projecting over it, it's projecting over it. The other point, as far as the small building, I need to point out a couple of things. One, there are many things that don't require a building permit that still need to meet setbacks. And that's one of the things to keep in mind that people don't always realize. Again, that's, people not trying to break the rules, but sometimes they do. And then the other point is that, unfortunately, non-conforming use is the fact that it was there before we had a rule on it, isn't supposed to be justification for granting a variance. You'd need to find some other reason on it. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Luke. Is there anybody else in the audience that is for this? Seeing none?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I'll read the letter they received from their adjoining landowner to the south, their neighbor. To whom it may concern, this letter is in regards to the fish shed built on lot number 42, West Oakwood, Shoreline Drive, Bruce. It is my understanding that it is considered too close to the lot line of the property I own, lot number 41. My wife and I have no objections to its location and give our permission to allow it to remain there. Sincerely, Russell G. Snyder and Jerry L. Snyder.
Thank you, Richard. Is there anybody else that is for this?
Mr. Vosted, did you want to speak? You had your hand up a little bit ago, or did you change your mind? You need to come to the forward if you would
Step
like
forward.
to speak.
If you could clearly state your name into the mic before you say your piece, please. Sit down.
Bradley Vosted.
Nope.
The whole thing here is that what we're trying to do is establish a larger recreational area across the lake. And if you look at my lot, I have a 2-to-1 slope from the front of my house down to the high water mark. It's non-recreational at all. And had they not excavated for a basement and excavated their dirt out in front, their lot would have been the same way. And I know your zoning ordinance does not attribute anything to the topographic of the lots.
We do take that into consideration there on things.
Okay, that's all.
Is there anybody else that is for this? Seeing and hearing none, is there anybody in the audience that is opposed to this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll now close the public portion of the hearing. I'll move back to the board for additional comments or questions.
Dealing with, in my occupation, with highways and right-of-ways and stuff, I'm trying to figure out how to word a variance that would take the edge so it's not over the public waterway. So is it basically reducing the deck back so it's even with the top of the outside edge of the monster block? Is that how I would word that?
Yes, to comply by that statute, that is how I would read that. The deck would have to be the extension that extends out over the retaining wall out into the shoreline. Would have to be shortened up to back to the monster block. Whether you have it on the line, top of the monster block, or 6 inches into the monster block, leaning towards, or 1 foot, whatever distance you want to have that. And I've got that in. If we go through the findings, we can stipulate that distance.
Yeah, I guess from my standpoint, having it at the edge of the outside retaining wall, straight up, outside edge, matching up, not to exceed, so there's nothing extending above the public waterway area. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with this. So that's my only issue, is cutting it back.
Yep, that's acceptable.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would concur with Mr. Gadsky's observation along with Luke's observation that you might have some legal liability if it's over the waterway, according to the state law.
Well, when you put a dock in the water,
Yeah, I understand that, but a dock is different than building a structure over the water like this. It's a deck. You also could have put a cement slab in there up to the wall and probably wouldn't have needed a building permit for that. But once you make a structure and build it with wood, then the permit kicks in. But I'd have a hard time approving a variance that would put you in a legal position to be in violation if something happened. Somebody, I don't know, ran a boat up there and said, oh, by the way, you know, his deck hit our boat before we get at the edge of the water and destroyed our boat, and we're going to sue him. And it shouldn't have been there. I don't know what situation would happen, to be honest with you. But I have a problem with making a variance that would violate the state law and put you at some sort of liability.
In 30 years, I've never had any grandkids fall off of it yet.
And again, I'm not so worried about grandkids falling off as I am. It's a legal waterway.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. Jet ski comes flying in there.
Mhm.
He'd have been fine if the deck hadn't stuck out 3 feet and he was on the water. Yeah, just something stupid like that could
Yeah.
happen. I'm just making
Well,
up with a
that's
scenario.
acceptable.
And then you're legally drawn into some challenges. And Luke, is that a correct assumption or?
Yeah, the other part that comes in is I'm not 100% sure you have the authority to even allow them to do it, given the fact that it's over public property.
Yeah,
So I don't think you have. That's a legal question, but I will say that many other times, if this was over a road, I've heard it be said that you don't have the ability to let them build it over a road. And again, that term is the same term they use for roads. So, and those are two issues that I don't know how you cross it in this case.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing that concerns me is liability. Never say never. Something could happen.
I want to compliment you though on cleaning up the area, because that's one thing I've noticed about Oakwood and Tatanka and these other lakes is everybody's starting to clean them up and it looks nice.
We've lost a lot of erosion from the different years. The neighbor to the south, he lost 8 or 10 foot beyond where the wall is now. And I've always had a lot of rock, and that so wasn't bad. Brad, he's lost some. We thought it was a good deal to improve the lake.
Yeah, and we did 350 foot. Five
Us and the neighbors did.
five
Yeah.
property owners, yeah.
Just
And
a
it's
question
standard
on
for-
the shed itself. Is the shed on a foundation or is it just sitting on the deck, screwed to the
No,
deck?
it's got a slab.
It has a slab under
Yeah.
it, so it is a structure.
Yeah.
Yes, being with the slab, that is considered a structure.
So there's an additional variance for that we have to approve tonight also?
We could include that with the deck, but also we would have to include the side yard variance from that 3 feet, so we could include.
Since it's on a cement pad,
It's considered a
it's
permanent
considered
structure.
a permanent structure, and since it's in the setback area, it has to have a variance.
Correct.
So you got a variance for the setback, you got a variance for the shed. Now, if it was a portable shed just sitting there
And they could move it,
and they can move it, it's a different deal.
as long as they can move it back farther away if,
Which they'd have to lift it up quite a ways to make
Right.
that work.
The
Well,
only thing is this structure is actually probably safer because you're not going to find it floating in the middle of the lake after a storm.
yeah, it's also smaller than the original.
so it could be worded the deck with a storage shed on there, so that would include whatever distance we have, the 0-foot setback would include that shed there. Is part of the deck anchored to the foundation? Is the,
Absolutely.
Okay,
It's
so-
blown away.
okay, so the perimeter, the outside of that shed, part of the deck is anchored to that then?
Yep.
Okay, so the deck and the shed would be considered one structure.
And then for what it's worth, sorry, Luke, again, that shed was less than 120 square feet, wasn't it?
No, it was 80 by, or 10, or 8 by 10, 80 square.
8 by
foot.
10, so it's 80 square feet, so it's
The
less than,
original one.
Yeah, the original one. This one's 8 by 7.
what's the size that you would require a building permit at?
120.
120. Okay, so it's less than what you would require a building permit at. Okay.
I have no other questions or comments.
Do any other board members have any questions or comments?
Mr. Whitmire, your comments as far as moving the deck back to the top of the
I'll
wall?
do that.
No problem with that?
No.
If you'd put a railing on it,
Pardon?
if you would choose to put a railing on it, you'll get your fishing pole holder out there where you had it before. That just my observance on it. So,
You obviously fish.
I haven't fished in 20 years, 21 years. Any other comments, questions from members of the board? I assume we're gonna amend the findings as we go.
Yes.
Well then, Richard, would you read the findings?
Brookings County zoning variance 2022, variant 006. Application for variance have been filed with the Brookings County Zoning Commission, acting as the Brookings County Board of Adjustment. A copy of the application being attached here too. Such application will be made by Larry Whitmire regarding the following real property. Lot number 25 of DeBoer's Lake Titankaha West Subdivision in government lots 1, 4, 5, and 6 in the southeast 1/4 of Section 7, Township 111 North, Range 51 West, Oakwood Township. Located at a 42 Oakwood Shoreline Drive, Bruce, South Dakota, 57220. After due notice, a public hearing have been held on the application on the first day of March 2022. Number 1. Number 2. We did do a variance, okay. Number 3. Well, I had to stop and think to make sure we did the variance findings already, which we did. So, and number 4. The Brookings County Board of Adjustment further finding that the reason set forth in the variance application justifying the granting of the variance, that the variance is a minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and the intent of the Brookings County zoning ordinance, and will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Number 5, the Brookings County Board of Adjustment further determines and conditions this variance upon the following special conditions or safeguards. A, shape and size of the lot. B, lake lots and cabins have existed on Lake Titankaha, otherwise known as Lake Oakwood, since the 1930s and 40s prior to zoning requirements. Lake Titankaha, DeBoer Lake Titankaha West Subdivision was originally platted in 1984 and was replatted in June of 2003 when the original road was vacated and relocated. The residence was built in 1993, building permit 1411, excuse me. A portion of the property is located in the floodplain and will need to be built to the floodplain ordinance standards. E, the Brookings County Development Office notified the applicant by letter on January 25th, 2022 that they needed to apply for an after-the-fact variance. Brookings County Board of Adjustment, at least 2/3 vote of its full membership, hereby grants the above petitioner a variance for the above described real property as follows. Allow an already built lakeside deck What were the dimensions of your deck, sir?
16 by 30, isn't it? Yeah, 16 by 30.
Lakeside 16 by 30 deck to have a 0-foot setback from the high water mark, and that the portion of the deck extending beyond the retaining wall into the shoreline be removed, so that the deck is shortened to the edge of the retaining wall, or whatever distance you would like there. And it also may be subject to South Dakota Codified Law 4317-2 regulations, which are enforced by the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. And an 7-by-8 accessory building built on top of the deck is approximately 6 feet from the edge of the retaining wall. Is that the correct distance we have? Or is it up to the, I guess we can...
It's 9 foot out to the very edge. It's a little over 6 foot to the retaining wall.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought, because I counted the boards like you did. So,
Is the deck still 16 by 30 when we remove the overhang?
I'm sorry?
Is your deck still 16 by 30 when we remove the overhang, or is that the original
No,
measurements?
that would, what it is now, it'll be
And
about
it was
14.
that 30 years ago, too.
So we'll need to move it down to 14 by 30.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so that 16
Yep,
needs to go to
yep.
14.
We can count the boards in there too to get, if you wanted to get a rough idea. Is that,
No. Not
as
that
long
one.
as it's back behind the retaining wall, that's the big key right there.
That'd be your 4 2x6s that you talked to get even,
It's gotta
right?
come off the,
What's that?
That would be your 4 2x6s. Taking it from 16 to 14
Yeah.
would take your 4 2x6s right there off.
Five or
There's
four.
6 boards right
Oh,
here.
out-
Five.
yeah,
Well, yeah,
out-
they're not actually 2x6.
Where the water pipe goes down, it'd be cut off about right there.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, 5, whatever
So
it
that'd
is
be
there.
5.5
5 boards
inches.
would come off. Yeah.
Yep.
The
Right.
block wall.
Let's just leave it with not to extend.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Haugen, I'd recommend that you just say allow the already built lakeside deck not to exceed, and you could leave 14 or 30, 16 by 30, with no portion of the deck extending beyond the retaining wall, provided no portion of the deck extend beyond the retaining wall. That way you're covering both sides of that point, that so that he's up to 16 by 30, but he can't go any farther out than the retaining wall. That would cover that answer.
Deck, and then right behind deck to have no portion overhanging the monster block.
Yeah.
Or retaining wall, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Just say up to.
All right.
Up to 16 by 30 is what I would say there. There you go.
Extending. I know, but I can't type.
Hey, you're better than me.
Well, extending beyond the retaining wall, is that where we want to put a period?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
If you'd let me help edit here, I guess I'd just say, and that no portion of the deck shall extend beyond the retaining wall into the shoreline.
put a period there then.
No portion of the deck shall extend beyond.
Yep.
There you go.
Got it?
That covers both ends then.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we leave the South Dakota codified law on there just for?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then board, sorry, I'll act as staff member again here. Is it relevant that this is at grade? Basically, that there are no pilings. This is not any more than just one step above grade. All they have is the boards through the footing right on level. And my real question here is this something you would look at differently if this was 3 feet above the ground versus just at grade?
Well, if it's 3 feet above the ground, we'd have to require them to have a railing.
My point is, if that weighed into you granting this variance, that this was, say, at grade versus above grade, you may want to reference that fact. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Okay, where do we need that at? Where would you like that?
no, excuse me, you say grade. Oh, okay, yeah, resting
Yeah,
on
yeah,
grade, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, 2x6s, yeah.
Does that make sense there, or we need to, anything else for that line? All right, B, Brookings County floodplain development permit required and follow the Brookings County floodplain ordinance for building in the floodplain. On building permit with plans required for an after-the-fact building permit, fees will apply.
A question, shouldn't it state that that shed is 3 feet from the property line?
Oh,
Your-
yes.
your-
Yep, thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah, that's 6 foot from, yeah.
We're gonna call that the south.
So when it says 6 foot from the edge of the retaining wall and then the retaining wall is 3 foot from the south property line, I'm a little confused on what that is indicating. What, that 6 foot is from where?
From the edge of the retaining wall to the edge of the building.
Yeah, right now, the building, out to the edge of the deck that extends over, it's 9 foot. Take off, well, 2.5 to 3 foot, whatever it is. 30 inches, it's what it sticks out over there, so 2.5 foot.
Thank
It
you.
would be approximately 6 foot, 6.5 foot.
Anything else on there we need to, any reference to consider this small step like concrete as a versus, or just leave it be?
I think that's more or less what you did with it, resting at grade.
Okay,
I think is how I'd do it.
all right. Anything else for that section? Yes. Yep. Yep. Bring in your set of plans, how your joists are spaced and what your rim joists are and whatnot, and your board, so.
Okay, now, do we have to go in and apply for a building permit now that it's all done, or is this gonna?
No, you need to do that after, if this is approved, then you
Okay.
need to come in and get a building permit with your
Okay.
plans.
That's
Yep.
fine.
And
what-
the after-the-fact building permit fees will apply.
Okay.
So,
For what it's
Which we
worth,
already paid, yeah.
from a procedural standpoint, what's gone on here is that the Board of Adjustment, if they vote yes, is ordering Richard to issue a permit if you walk through the door and ask for it. If you don't ask for the permit, you're still in violation of the
Oh,
rules.
okay, yeah, that's
So
no problem.
they've just said, Richard, you need to issue the permit if they do what you say.
this variance is specifically conditioned upon initial and continued compliance with all the conditions and safeguards in 5 above and upon compliance with all applicable provisions of the Brookings County zoning ordinance. If approved, the Brookings County zoning director is authorized to issue any required building permits for construction consistent with the terms of this variance. If this variance is not used within 3 years of the date granted, it shall be invalid. Dated this first day of March 2022.
Is there any additions or corrections to the findings of facts?
I concur with your findings of the fact.
Thank you, Mr. Gatsky. Richard, would you call a vote?
Yes, let me get caught up here. Gatsky,
Aye.
Dietrich,
Aye.
Kleinjohn,
Aye.
Storhog,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Erickson, and Ford.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We
Thank
will
you.
Get the permit.
Good luck fishing.
Thank you.
He said it didn't require railing. It was on the ground.
be a fish wrap.
Oh, now where'd my other sheet go? Here we go. Moving on, department reports.
Only thing I have is just, we have our special meeting on, coming up this Thursday at 5:30 here in this room, so that's our Thursday at 5:30. Should I give you a reminder call? Luke, anything you wanted to add to that?
No,
or-
the only thing I was going to ask, I was more going to ask, did you send them maybe page number or section? What we're talking about is it's just going to be the CAFO section of that ordinance. And I'll tell you that section was written based around largely the number of, like, the size of operations we have in that area already. It'll take a little bit of arm waving for me, but, be prepared. And the reality is that the overall size of feedlots allowed in that joint jurisdiction area would be significantly smaller than it would be in the rest of the county. That said, you have very few. I think you only have one over 500 animal units, or even at 500 animal units today in that area. So that's the main point that I'm going to bring up. I think. Right. Yes.
Why not?
Mm-hmm. So there are feedlots there. I'll restate it there at the meeting. There are feedlots there. Some folks that might be interested in expanding, but we got to be aware that by putting in the rules, they're going to apply to them. So just be aware.
It's over at Jerry's now.
Were you also not going to touch mining ordinances in this one, or just CAFOs?
Say that again. On what?
Mining ordinances, were you going to go over
That'll be
those?
the next meeting.
That's after that, okay.
That'll be the next meeting, and that'll be the last solely dedicated meeting topic that we'll have. This will just be to talk about CAFOs as long as we have to. If you guys walk in and say you nailed it, we got a 3-minute meeting, maybe. Well, you're just gonna have to wait and find out. That's code for I don't remember.
Technically, I believe we still have one permitted because 3 years isn't up yet, right?
Oh, you'd be right. Yeah,
Yes,
if it
it's
was
coming up here this year, I believe.
the
It's across the street from me.
actually to get this into perspective, because this is actually necessary, kind of important. One of the things that was done, or at least discussed, and I've got to go back and double check the definition, but the number of animals that constitutes a feedlot versus just someone who's got some critters was decreased. I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was 5, if I'm not mistaken. So going back to that, someone could have a number of animals, and it revolved around horses. So I want to say it was like 2 horses, and he didn't have a feedlot, if I remember right. Because you have so many people with horses in this area. I was so shocked. But yeah, but the stable would be handled a little bit differently. It would just be a conditional use permit for a stable but it's still considered a CAFO. It's just a smaller CAFO.
which are all probably under the head requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, that's all that I have. Is just 5:30 on Thursday.
Alrighty. Is there any need for an executive session? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Gatsby, second by Diedrich, meeting adjourned.